welcome to the Holiday and Cruise Clinic. I'm Jemma Gofton with another edition of the programme that aims to make your next cruise or holiday as problem-free and relaxing as possible. So if you have a holiday, cruise or travel-related question, here's how to get in touch. To leave a question on our viewer hotline, call 0871 423 4444. Calls cost 10p a minute from a BT landline, and calls from other networks and mobiles may vary. Write on our Facebook wall or tweet us, just search Holiday and Cruise Channel. Send a message through our website www.holidayandcruisechannel.co.uk/clinic, or write to us at the Holiday and Cruise Channel, Cavendish House, Brighton Road, Liverpool, L22 5NG. Now in today's programme, we're looking at yachting holidays and small ship cruises with Variety Cruises. With their exciting and adventurous range of tailor-made holidays, you could be sailing around the Caribbean, perhaps enjoying life on board a yacht in Greece, or soaking up the sun around the Canary Islands. And here to tell us more about the diverse range of options available when booking your next cruise or sailing holiday is Chris Lorenzo from Variety Cruises. Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for asking me.
There's a lot to chat about here, isn't there? Now, I'm having a look at what you do. I like the sound of mega yacht cruises. What's that?
Okay, well, we call them mega yachts because they are much, much bigger than most people's perception of a yacht. Usually you think of a yacht as something that one family would charter and sail, perhaps, and the vessels that we operate are much, much larger than that. They're the sort of thing that one sees in harbours like Monte Carlo and thinks, wow, Russian oligarch, Greek shipping tycoon. That's what they look like, typically 25 up to 36 cabins. So they're yachts, but they are mega yachts, not quite big enough for us to call them ships.
They sound absolutely amazing. And so what sort of destinations can you cruise to in those vessels?
Okay, well, there's quite a range, actually. There's a lot of destinations that we feature. Quite a lot of it in the summer is in the Mediterranean. And as you'd expect, because it's an ideal sort of destination for this type of vessel, the Greek Isles, or the Greek Isles and Turkey, features very prominently that time of year. But we also have a vessel in the Seychelles year-round. In the winter season, we feature places like Cuba, Costa Rica, Panama Canal, the Red Sea. A new addition is the Canary Islands.
And how hands-on can you be on these mega yacht cruises? Obviously, you have people skippering and looking after you, because I don't want to be in charge of that, and trust me, nobody wants me to be in charge of it. But can you say, oh, can I have a go at this? Can I help out? Can I look? Can I watch?
It's not that kind of cruise, actually, and that's, I think, a common misconception, that a lot of people assume it's the sort of thing where you get involved and perhaps a bit more of an adventure in that sense. These cruises are much more like cruises in the traditional sense, where you're totally looked after. There's a professional crew, including a captain, including an engineer, professional chefs, stewards, and so on. And you don't actually have to get involved, or can't really get involved, in operating the vessel.
Phew.
Interestingly, they have, however, got things like an open bridge policy. So you can actually just wander onto the bridge, unless it's a crucial time when perhaps the captain's docking, and question the officer of the watch on how things work, and perhaps even take the wheel. They don't have a problem with that, but you don't actually have to lift a finger.
Phew. That's my sort of holiday. OK, so if we are all out relaxing, chilling, luxury, what can we expect on board?
OK, well, these cruises are, I would say, less about life on board and a lot more about the destinations visited. And whilst the facilities on board in certain respects are just like you'd get on a cruise ship, so you've got very nice cabins, fully equipped, comfortable lounge, comfortable dining room, comfortable bar, sun decks. In other respects, it's not like a cruise ship. It's not about spending long, long days and evenings at sea. It's more about long days ashore. So there's lots of time on each of the islands to go off exploring and so on. And in that respect, there's not as many facilities in terms of show lounges, theatres, shops and so on board the vessel. Obviously, being a yacht, it's a lot smaller, but you don't need those sorts of facilities when the idea is that you spend more time ashore and enjoy what's there.
But it's luxurious, it's nice sleeping accommodation, and everything's there that you need.
Absolutely. I think I'd compare the cabin accommodation and the lounges and bars and restaurant and so on, I'd say equivalent to what you would expect on a good quality cruise ship.
Oh, and how many guests do they take?
Typically it's on a 25 cabin vessel, which is the majority actually of our fleet. Bearing in mind there'll be some single occupancy cabins and so on, about 40 passengers is quite typical. The biggest vessel and the flagship of the fleet, the Variety Voyager, has 36 cabins, so it could be an absolute maximum of 72 passengers on our bigger ship, but usually it's around 40 people.
And I guess because there are less people, it's a very personal service and very friendly. You'll get to know everybody.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the great attractions of these cruises, that the crew will get to know everybody on first names probably, and obviously everybody gets to know the crew on first name terms. You get to know everybody on board. There's enough people there, I think, to be able to find people that you get on with. But I think what's notable is when you turn up at the bar, the steward or stewardess will remember whether you drink tea or coffee, how you have your drink, and so on. And I think another great attraction with such small groups is there's no queues. Getting on and off the ship is the simplest thing, and there's no need for security and that sort of thing. There's somebody on duty at the gangplank, but you just go on and off as you please, and there's no formality to it, and it's so easy.
Well, because we're talking about getting on and off, let's talk about a typical day,
Okay.
just to whet people's appetites.
As I said, it's more about the places that you go to, and it means that on a typical day you do have quite a lot of time ashore. But let's say when you get up at breakfast, you'll have already sailed, and so it's an opportunity perhaps to take breakfast in the alfresco dining area on the main deck. Then it'll be a chance to perhaps to relax on board, do some sunbathing, read up about the next destination, and there may be a talk by the cruise deck director on the next destination coming up. Another feature that our clients really love is that en route to the destination, it's quite likely that the vessel will pull into, let's say, a secluded cove somewhere, drop anchor, and then everybody can go swimming from the swimming platform at the back of the ship. And go snorkeling perhaps, and they also carry a couple of sea kayaks on board which clients can use. Fishing even, they have fishing lines. That will be a relatively short stop though, and then it's perhaps lunch on board and then arrive at the next destination, and they'll be in that destination for the rest of the day, probably right into the early hours of next morning. And what it means is that one can go off and explore at their leisure. Perhaps take an organised tour if it's one of the larger places where a tour is appropriate. But otherwise, it might be just wandering independently. And it means that there's no rush, there's no hurry, plenty of time. One can go to the beach, one can go and do the sites, museums, whatever it is to do. When the vessel's at sea, it could be dinner in the evening. Perhaps it'll be lunch ashore, and when they have dinner on board, dinner is a bit more like a dinner party than the sort of more formal affair that you get on larger ships. So for example, it's open seating, no jackets or ties required, and it's single sitting, so we can accommodate everybody in the dining room in one go. And I would say that a highlight is that then people can go ashore in the evening. They can perhaps go out for the evening and enjoy the nightlife ashore. There are some occasions though when we're at sea, and there's always something organised to make sure that time on board is enjoyable.
And would you say the reason for sort of experiencing a destination in the day and in the evening is that you get a whole rounded experience of it? Because sometimes if you just dip in for the day, you've not really seen the nightlife, I feel you miss out.
I think that's absolutely correct, and you're spot on there. And I think destinations have a lot to offer, and often even a day and an evening is just scratching the surface. But certainly it gives you a much better feel of what the place is really like, and it gives you the opportunity to get under the skin of the destination a bit and see more than just the one thing that you have time to see if you were just on an organised tour on a short visit.
Okie dokie. We're going for a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Lots more questions for you. Now, before we do go to that break, let me tell you about this. If you're new to cruising, then this might be for you. It's our first time guide to cruise holidays, and it's well worth asking for because it's absolutely free of charge. Just give us a call, 0871 423 4444. Calls will cost 10p a minute from a BT landline, and other networks and mobiles may vary. You can also ask for a copy through our website, www.holidayandcruisechannel.co.uk. Whilst you're asking for this, we'll take a quick break. See you shortly. Welcome back to the Holiday and Cruise Clinic. It's lovely to have you with us. In today's programme, we're getting adventurous when planning our cruising and sailing holidays with Chris Lorenzo from Variety Cruises. Okay, we chatted extensively before the break, but what we didn't talk about is who this is actually suitable for. So could you come with a family? Is it romantic? Is it if you're adventurous and you're outdoorsy?
I'd say certainly if you're adventurous and outdoorsy, it's great because you're going to places that are off the beaten track, that perhaps are not normal tourist destinations, and you're more of a traveller than a tourist on these cruises. I'd say romantic certainly, and we do find quite a lot of honeymooners book these cruises. And as far as families are concerned, I think it's good for families that perhaps want to do things together, want to spend time together, and have lots of time to go off and do things. I don't think it's ideal for families where they're looking for lots of facilities and organised activities for the children because of the size of the vessel and obviously the small number of children that would be on board. There aren't really any organised activities and there aren't really any facilities specifically for children. So great for families, perhaps with slightly older children that want to do things together, want to spend time together, perhaps something they don't have time to do in their everyday lives.
Well, I guess because the beach, the free beach, once you've stopped, I think it's the thing that keeps everybody entertained all day. And, you know, I think that's brilliant. But then obviously you've got your excursions as well. So if you're slightly older, they can maybe bike rides and hiking and whatnot and be really outdoorsy and adventurous, unlike me, who would sit there sunbathing. So some of the cruises are half board. What's the reason for that?
Well, that happens actually only in the Greek islands. And the reason we do that is, as I've said, we spend quite a lot of time ashore. And what people really enjoy in being in a place like Greece, and obviously Greek food is very popular in the UK, they like going ashore and eating in the little harbourside tavernas, whether it's lunch or dinner. And so over the years we've learned that the preference amongst clients is to be able to take advantage of that and not feel that they're paying for meals on board that they're not taking. So half board works really well, and it's usually either breakfast, it's breakfast every day, but it's either lunch or dinner according to the programme. So obviously if you're at sea in the evening, it would be dinner on board. If you're in harbour in the evening, it's a good opportunity to go and have dinner ashore.
Now, you mentioned that was due to feedback from customers that they didn't want to, they felt that they wanted to get out there. How important is customer feedback to you, and is it often acted upon?
Yes, very much so. I think with the small number of guests that we handle, that means that we can actually connect to them. Company executives regularly visit cruises and probably get around to speak to every single passenger on board. Everybody gets a questionnaire to complete as well, and they're all analysed by all the senior executives, obviously all the people who make the decisions in the company. So we'd like to think that we're quite close to our guests and certainly take into account their preferences and their feedback, very much so.
And I guess success can be gauged on repeat customers. Do you have a lot of those? Yes,
repeat customers are automatically members of the so-called Variety Club. Nothing to do with the Variety Club of Great Britain, of course, but it's the Variety Cruises Club, and it means that they do get some benefits in terms of special themed cruises, special discounts only for past guests, and it is a very significant percentage of the guests that we carry.
Do you ever find that because they are smaller vessels that perhaps somebody might take the whole vessel up with the whole family for some big 50th wedding anniversary or something?
It does happen. We have 7 vessels that we operate in the fleet, and probably one of them is permanently on charter, exclusive charter for one reason or another. Now that may be a tour operator who's doing something themed with their clients, and it may be a special occasion such as an anniversary, some major party. It can be corporate as well. Sometimes companies take their top management away perhaps as an incentive reward or something like that. But yeah, you do get families and groups of friends for special occasions chartering a ship from time to time, yeah.
As we're chatting, it strikes me that this is such a niche little market. How was it born? What did it come from? Where did it? The history of it. Okay,
well, it's a company that's been around for a long, long time. Not under the name Variety Cruises, I should add, but nonetheless, it was founded in 1949 in Greece by the Venetopoulos family, who have a long history in operating this sort of yacht cruise. In the early days, they were the traditional wooden motor sailing yachts, and they still do, of course, exist out in the Mediterranean. They were a lot simpler and more basic than they are today, back in the sort of 50s and 60s, even in the 70s. But by the 90s, the company had evolved, and they were purpose building specifically designed cruise vessels in this sort of 40, 50 passenger size that we have today.
And then from there it's grown and grown?
It has. It's not a huge company. It remains a small company. I mean, I was chatting to somebody the other day and explaining that the entire capacity of the cruise line with all 7 vessels for the entire year is probably the equivalent of one sailing of one of these mega ships that are built today, which have thousands and thousands of passengers. So, you know, it puts it in perspective. But yes, 7 ships, all purpose-built, and what's now developed into a worldwide operation.
I was going to say, because it is year-round, so
yeah, year-round and pretty well worldwide.
From place to place.
Yeah.
And which is your favourite?
Well, I have to say that I'm a great fan of the Greek islands, and I'd say that this sort of vessel is absolutely perfect for island hopping in the Greek islands.
And is that because of the size of it and it can get in places, or?
Exactly that. A lot of the islands, people who think they've been to the Greek islands and know the Greek islands well on, let's say, normal package holidays, will never have got to some of the places that we get to. And these are places that perhaps even the ferry will call in only once a week. And they're certainly not tourist destinations. So it really allows you to go into, let's say, a different age, because some of these islands are completely timeless and haven't changed virtually for decades. And that's a real highlight of these cruises.
Which is your favourite vessel to travel on?
Actually, my favourite is a vessel called the Panorama, and I particularly like the Panorama because it's a thoroughbred sailing vessel. Now, we call them motor sailors because we have schedules to keep, we have various islands to get to, and you're not really going to get an authentic sailing experience. And if that's what one is looking for, I'd have to say this isn't really the right cruise for that kind of experience. But nonetheless, it's a very sleek, quite majestic sailing vessel that, were the weather to be favourable, switch the engines off, and in the right winds it will sail, and it will, you know, sail beautifully, and that's my favourite ship.
And we were talking there before just about how off the beaten track places are. So how are you received when you come in by the communities, by the, I don't know, the taverna owners, the fishermen? Are they quite excited to see tourists?
I think they don't see them as tourists, actually, because it becomes a regular feature, because we go in every week over the course of, let's say, the summer season. I would say that the crew, the captain and some of the officers and people who have to go ashore as part of their duties, or perhaps to do some shopping or whatever, are actually known. They almost become like locals in a sense, because they're regular visitors in small communities like this, where, let's say, only a dozen people go into the shop, the local shop, in any day. If you go in there every week of the season, you get recognised as a local. So I'd say we get accepted as part of the community. But I think a real feature of these cruises is that we visit these little places, and the number of visitors that we take in is such that we don't actually change the destination. And they welcome the extra business, but it's not so much business that it means that they're going to shut down what they do and open some big jewellery store or souvenir store or build a shopping mall or something. I mean, they will continue to do what they do. They welcome the extra business. They accept us as locals. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that in some of the destinations, we actually get involved in projects. So until recently, we were running a cruise in the Gambia. It was called the Rivers of West Africa. Variety Cruises got involved in building a school in one of the villages that we visited every week. And we're still in touch with that community, and we still regularly send them stationery and supplies for the school. And things like that happen in some of the other destinations as well.
Wonderful. It sounds absolutely idyllic. My type of holiday. Thank you so much for popping in and joining us today. Now, before we head off, just a quick reminder about this. It's our first time guide to cruise holidays. It's absolutely free of charge. Just give us a call, 0871 423 4444. Calls will cost 10p a minute from a BT landline, and other networks and mobiles might just vary. Don't forget, you can also ask for a copy through our website, www.holidayandcruisechannel.co.uk, where you can also get in touch with your questions for future programmes. Okay, that's all we've got time for on today's edition of the Holiday and Cruise Clinic. My thanks to Chris Lorenzo from Variety Cruises, and thanks to you for watching. See you next time. Bye.